Welcome to my ArundelBiz podcast, powered by Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation.
A podcast that celebrates the businesses and business owners throughout Anne Arundel County.
Hello and welcome to a very It's Gonna Be May episode of my ArundelBiz podcast. That was for you, Christina, in our office. I'm Grayson Orfe.
And I'm Steve Adams. And as Grayson said, along with memes supported by all the Justin Timberlake lovers out there, and flower displays on May 1st, and Cinco de Mayo, and farmers markets coming back, and Blue Angel shows, and hopefully warmer weather as well.
Yes.
There's a ton going on in May. At AAEDC, we're also celebrating the graduation of what is our 6th Inclusive Ventures program cohort, and the fact that it's Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So with both of those last two things in mind, plus the warmer weather and outdoor activities, which we've kind of given away here by all the assortment of balls you see, we're very pleased to introduce today's guest, Jeremiah Batucan. He is a member of our 3rd IVP cohort and the owner of Peake, formerly Annapolis Social, an adult social sports league based in Annapolis. So, Jeremiah, welcome to the podcast.
Grayson, Steve, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Great to have you.
Sorry I'm not Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. We can all only wish, right?
It's gonna be okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done now. I'm fine. I'm done.
I want it with every question. So, to kick things off, can you tell us just a little bit about your background, how you decided to start Annapolis Social, then obviously turn it into the rebranded Peake Social, and also how many leagues you've got going on?
Yeah, great question. So Megan Bell and I co-founded Annapolis Social League at first. Then we said, "Baby, bye," and changed the name to
there we go.
to Peake Social. And it was an evolution of the brand because while 70% of our players are Annapolis-based, we were running leagues in Crofton and Gambrels and Odenton. We own Kent Island with the Edge now. We're in Gambrels with API. We have a cornhole league with the new Guinness Open Gate Brewery in Halethorpe. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to still focus on the Chesapeake Bay region and then also kind of be in the peak of your week if we could. So we want people to have more peak than valleys. Work is stressful, life can be tough. So we want to give you the opportunity to have an hour or multiple if you want to play multiple leagues a week, which a number of our players do, and just kind of turn it off and just get to go back to playing sports and socializing. So you asked how we started, and it was in 2019 we ran our first cornhole league with the Hampton Ales Festival, which is held at Maryland Live. And then we had big plans to start a kickball league, and we had Megan and I played in a number of leagues, and we were on the hospitality team together at our local church, and most of the times when we're serving, kind of open the doors, we're like, hey, here's how the week went with our sports, this past week, the game, the lineup, which is silly because it's kickball, but we're still competitive. She's an ex-lacrosse player. I played rugby a long time, and so we kind of just felt there was an opportunity to create a bigger league because there was a couple in town, but they were really just focused on kickball, and there were some volleyball leagues run by the city. But I lived in New York City in 2015 to about 2018, and granted they have 8 million people, and we have 650,000 or so in the county. So different, but there was still always something to do. And as a guy who hates sleep, I thought, there should be more stuff going on here. So we had. Well, let's launch this. And they say timing is everything, so we were due to start March 2020. We had, 6 to 8 teams already pre-signed up for the league, and then we all got the announcement from Hogan, let's all go home and learn what the term, social distancing means.
Right.
So, it took us a little while to get started. We did kick off that October with about, 6 teams of mostly our friends, with mass outdoors playing kickball. So we went from 72 players, and now we run about 500 kickball players in Annapolis,
Holy
on
cow.
Thursday nights, about 450 when we were hosted on Wednesdays in the spring and the summer. So it's been a great evolution. And for a number of leagues, we started with just one, with kickball. We moved to bowling later that year. We actually have been running with an axe throwing league with chill axes. And I got in trouble on a podcast once. I couldn't remember all these at the top of my head. So this time I wrote them down.
Good.
So addition to that, we have cornhole, we have volleyball, we have soccer, bocce, pickleball, dodgeball, tennis, basketball, floor hockey, golf, curling, sailing, ultimate frisbee, and touch rugby so far.
Wow.
So,
Man.
yeah.
Pickleball, that's that hot new craze. So
Pickleball is crazy.
That's good that you got it.
That league sold out so fast that we had just a number of people emailing us and DMing trying to get in. And we're very proud because, as a Terp, we have Alex Eng, she's in our league. We have Megan Taylor. She basically won the Heisman for lacrosse players as a goalie, which is like unheard of. And those two get to square up every once in a while in the pickleball court. And they're like, even though they don't have a background in pickleball, they're just athletes. And
Right.
so it's just fireworks.
That competition is there.
Yeah. We hosted our first, we did a college March Madness. So we showed up wearing their alumni gear and we had
wow.
UMBC, jerseys. We have AACC there. It was fun to see. And, I was proud. The Terps won the tournament, or at least half of Terp. And then it was NYU, was the other teammate on that squad. So
Wow.
That's great. So mentioned before, you are a part of the IVP family, and so after a year of after your graduation, what were the things that attracted you to IVP, and how did you find out about it?
I think it was good marketing. I think I jumped on your newsletter at some point. I think I saw it posted or someone mentioned it, so I signed up. And then, I saw the IVP program, and I said, hey, this looks interesting. And my father's Filipino. He moved here from the Philippines when he was in his late teens, early 20s, and he worked for some doctors in Potomac. They were surgeons, and they basically, they don't touch scissors, they don't touch their own grass, they don't do any of that stuff because their hands are that valuable. So they're looking for help, and someone said, hey, I heard you're a hard worker, would you like to come to America? And he kind of said, well, what's America? And lo and behold, he got here, married my mother, who's from Missouri, so biracial family, and I thought, well, I never really considered myself a minority, really. You're never sure, hey, does this count? Does this not? I started at Central Middle, which is the South River High School district, predominantly Caucasian, went to Annapolis High School, predominantly African American, and the Asian community was always maybe 1 or 2%. I know all my fellow Filipinos that are work downtown and stuff, and it's always fun. And that's what kind of attracted me to it. Say, hey, here's an opportunity to connect with people that identify with their heritage, and then also want to kind of infuse that into their business to a degree. So I thought it was a great fit. The program, what Will and Mr. Brown and them run, has been awesome. A year later, I still talk to a number of them, still connect with Will on some of the events that he runs. We see you guys at the social and the mixers. So obviously a shameless plug, but if you haven't thought about it, you should. You should jump into the program. I share it all the time with people that are up and coming, because it's some people go to Harvard for the degree, and most people go to Harvard or any business school for the connections. And even with IVP, just opens a ton of doors that probably would not be accessible without it.
Yeah.
So what was some of the experience that you gained from it? What was one of the things that you were like, oh my God, I wouldn't have learned this outside of this program?
Yeah. And, a lot of the focus in IVP is on marketing, and it is on accounting. And I got my marketing degree from Maryland. I got my accounting degree over COVID from ACC because I figured I'd be running my own books. So that turned to the information was already set there. I think the wow moments for me was just interacting with the fellow cohorts, hearing what they were struggling with, hearing how they were trying to get their business started, hearing, the challenges they had. And, it's a win-win for us. While most of our leagues you would consider a B2C, we're trying to bring consumers in to be members, to be players, but we also interact a lot with businesses and saying, hey, if you look at a lot of our shirts, we do a lot of partnerships with First Home or Rehab Reform. So understanding from a business standpoint, you're really struggling to stand out. You're really struggling to connect with an audience that's not online, not on Facebook. They're on TikTok, which you can't target as well as you could Facebook and Instagram. With the iOS update with Apple, you can no longer kind of jump into their phone and follow them around the internet like we used to. too. So some good, some bad to that. If you're a business owner, probably more bad. So hearing their challenges, I was able to adapt my business. What's our pitch and unique proposition to a business saying, here's our ability to connect, because they open 85% of our emails because they want to know where their game is. They want to know what the bar is afterwards. Right. And so it's an ability for us, I think, just to learn more on the B2B side of the business. But also it's just, Will makes you do an exercise. He's like, how do you get to $1 million business? He said, don't just say it, but also put it into a spreadsheet, show the numbers. And I was looking at our growth, which looks, very impressive over 3 years, humbly. But at the same time, to get to that number, it's like, well, we got to do a lot more work in this area. We got a lot more work on expansion. So now looking at the Volt Fund, how do we use that to kind of be able to afford facilities or afford, purchasing or acquiring new leagues or partnerships? Like all that is kind of the next step. And I realized we were pretty far from getting to that 7-figure mark, and that was very helpful.
Yeah. So what were some of the biggest things that's happened in your business since then?
Well, we have expanded. We signed a partnership with 2 different facilities, one being AAPI in Gambles with Steve Vaughton, and has been awesome. We also launched in Kent Island for the first time with Bobby Woolley and those at the Edge Arena. Being able to utilize a facility like the Guinness, Open Gate Brewery, which is owned by Diageo, a massive, basically Fortune 500 company. Those were huge wins. And again, just spending more time on letting our commissioners, because we love our staff, and we've grown from having probably 6 or 7 refs that we were paying to now I think there's like 27 different people that in some way or capacity are working with us to help run or facilitate a league, either officiating or just being the commissioner. And we do treat them like commissioners. They are the mini Roger Goodell of that league, which he's not always well liked. So maybe the David Stern maybe of that league. And the players get to know them, and they really become the face of it, and we just support them with everything that they need. And that gives us more time to say, hey, how do we launch something else? Or this seems to be missing in this market, and we'd love to bring it. Because at the end of the day, people want to be social. They want to connect with others.
Especially after COVID.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had 2 young girls in our league who I guess met on BFF Tinder, they told me. I didn't know you could find friends on Tinder.
Friends,
so it was like that. And they said, we don't like kickball, but we want to meet someone because we've been in our house, moved here in February to Annapolis, and we've been stuck, until now. And there might have been some drinks involved. And she was like, oh, we're great at kickball. We're going to be the best, blah, blah, blah. They weren't great at kickball, but they were great at socializing. And they were always out, and the players loved them. They loved the new players.
It's about fun. It's about fun.
And I mean, from looking at your guys' social media all the time, I know it seems like you really practice what you preach in terms of being open to any and all people, whether they're pretty serious about the sport or really just looking to do a lot of socializing. So that's great.
Absolutely, you have to. I mean, our first rule is to be kind, and because no one is getting paid to play any of these sports that are coming out. And so, like I mentioned, the size of our kickball league, we actually have 3 divisions, which seems silly, but we have our Peake division, which is like we have some ex-baseball players and elite athletes. Our social with people that they want to play and keep score, but they're not taking it too seriously. And then super social, and that's if they get on first base like once in the season, like they're thrilled. They're throwing a party, and it's awesome. And so. We spend a lot of time, and we run a lot of events that connect people, even almost as a loss leader for us. We went to the O's game, this past, now it'll be a few weeks when this airs. But that we just kind of put together, here's the price. We basically make nothing off it, but we just want people to get together, enjoy the game. And, if you haven't been to a game with 50 of your friends, it's a whole unique experience that is way better than, going with a few friends. It's still fun, but this is like awesome because it's a lot more socializing.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm just curious, this is a follow-up question to all the leagues and all the growth. How do you go about finding facilities and fields? And I'm sure and keeping track of it too. I'm sure that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like, I told Megan, like, you almost treat that like a sales role too. Just like we go after partnerships and sponsors, going after a field is almost the same approach. Like, luckily that we do. Like, if you play in our league, and you win the league, we write a check to a nonprofit that you get to choose. So every time you play, you actually connect that with a purpose. And so it introduces a lot of players and teams to charities or nonprofits they never heard of, because even though they're going at it at the field, they're saying, oh, well, who are you guys playing for? Oh, SPCA or Boys and Girls Club or Maryland Riding, Therapeutics, so things like that. And then those charities will email us back saying, oh, here's some pictures or photos, here you're supporting, and we ship it to the players. And it just makes it I think a bigger purpose than just going out and playing and having a few drinks afterwards. And so when we kind of say, hey, this is what what you're doing, what we're supporting, a lot of facilities are more willing to work with us because they say, oh, like this makes a lot of sense. You're not just focused on playing sports. We do the social events, but we're really focused on that community engagement as well. A rising tide lifts all ships in a town like Annapolis. That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
If I feel like if every aspect of the city or town that you're in isn't flourishing, then it's just going to either weigh it down, and so you got to figure out how to put resources behind that. And our players are awesome with their time and their energy. Bernie House is a great charity that supports, or it's really nonprofit, that helps women in domestic violence situations, takes them out, puts them in a home that's safe with their family, and they can only support so many at a time because obviously housing is very expensive. But a few weeks ago, one of their houses flooded, and Patty gave me a call and said, hey, if you have anyone that you know, let me know. And I said, well, hold on one second. So I posted it on our Instagram as a story, not even a post, not an email, as a story.
Yeah.
And I had to turn it off 12 minutes later because we had 15 people saying, I'll be there.
Wow.
Drive from Annapolis to Severn, rip out carpet, take out couches upstairs, drive it to the dump. And I said, Patty, you're good. She goes, what do you mean? I'm like, no, I think I have too many people. How big is this house? She goes, so you have 12? I said, yeah. She's like, we're good. I said, all right, great. And I always offer that to people. I said, nonprofits, hard work. It's not underappreciated. It's just sometimes under resourced, and that's kind of the lay of the land. I said, we can ever be a support you in any way. Let us know. And I met her at the Bernie House Gala last year, and then I got that phone call 13 months later.
Right.
And it's the same thing for any school or field too. Like if something happens, give us a shout and we can help out. We love to.
Right. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
awesome to hear. So thinking of your growth, what are some of the biggest things you're looking forward to in 2023? I know we were talking a little bit earlier about the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month event that you're going to be hosting. What are some things in 2023 that you're looking forward to, and then even beyond in the years ahead for the business?
Yeah. So I think this whole next 4 weeks, as we sit here now, is just going to be very crazy. So there's a lot of events going on. There's a lot of new leagues. Like our new sailing league is launching or returning this May. You mentioned the Asian American Pacific Islander Festival, which is being hosted at the Arundel Fairgrounds. That's May 7th. It's the day after the Annapolis Irish Festival. So you can do a little bit of both. You can hit your Irish and Celtic background on Saturday, and then get your Asian and Taiwanese food and everything else the very next day.
Yep.
So it's gonna be a cool cultural weekend at the fairgrounds. We do a lot of work with Let's Go, so that's coming up right after in June with some great bands coming out. The boat shows will be wrapping up. Anytime the boat shows are in town, it's really exciting, and that ends technically April 30th, but
Right.
might as well be May.
Yeah, close enough.
But at this point now, we have leagues running 6 days a week. We started with just having one or two at a time, and some of those nights we have 4 leagues running at once. There's not really Monday through Thursday. Most nights have multiple leagues running. Plus we have a Friday night league. Plus we have Saturdays for football and everything else. We're just excited to see the growth and seeing people move around and try different sports. The weather's here. I think we're going straight to summer. It seems like a very cold spring and then 80 degrees right away. But I love the summer, so it's all right with me.
Yeah. Awesome.
So wrapping up and kind of also following up on some of the things that you said earlier, being a Asian American business owner, what does that mean to you? What are some of the things that you find gives you an advantage from being in Anne Arundel County?
Yeah, good question. In some ways, I joke that some days you feel like a coconut, or at least I feel like a coconut, because I was raised by my white Missourian mother for the most part. But I have this exterior shell that's a little more brown and tan. Part of it is also just more leaning in. I've been blessed to go to the Philippines twice and kind of see that culture. I just have a massive appreciation for everything that we have here. My family in the Philippines, they have cinder blocks for their walls. It's dirt floors with basic rugs and mats laid on top. Part of the chore is taking the water buffalo to whatever river or body of water before you have to go to school. Wow. So when you look at the disparity of what we have here versus there, one of it just makes you say, hey, what a blessing to be here. And we can complain a lot that we're not perfect, and no country ever will be, but obviously there's a ton of opportunity if you can go after and seize it. The Philippines has about 100 million people living in the population, or at least the landmass size of South Carolina. So that's how dense it is.
Wow.
So 1/3 of the U.S. almost living in one of our states. is how it kind of translates. So everyone's going after what little work there is. And so, here it's, I kind of feel like every day it's my responsibility to take advantage of what's out here. We live in one of the greatest counties in Maryland in terms of a lot of things, like being the home of the Capitol, being home of a very high average household income, the Naval Academy, St. John's, everything that we need between DC and Baltimore's right there, the water with the Chesapeake Bay. Like, there's not a lot to complain about for the most part, other than traffic, which we can all complain about.
Yep.
So I feel like that bleeds into how I kind of approach most days. It's not that I have to do this. It's I get to wake up and I get to do this. Right. So there's always that opportunity that we're provided, I think, living here versus a lot of places in the world.
Yeah. It's always a blessing. It's definitely a blessing. So what top tips would you give to business owners that are in Annapolis, or I'm sorry, in Anne Arundel County, and they're looking at you and like, oh my God, this guy did it. How do I even do it? How do I start?
That's a great question. First off, do your research. I always find reach out to a business owner who's doing what you do. Unless you have something truly proprietary that no one else is doing, I feel like you're not reinventing the wheel. And if you're doing something local that's more hyper-local, like what I do here, I called other people that run leagues in different parts of the country.
Right.
Because there's little chance I'd ever be competing with them. And so a good friend says, hey, I know the guy that runs a major soccer league down in New Orleans. He's like the guy about soccer. And so we chat. He goes, here's what's worked, here's what doesn't, here's what I did. Like our shirts now, we make our own because, hey, he said, buy it yourself, do it your own. Because that way when people come in late and all that stuff, you're not paying the crazy upcharge and things like that. I was like, it just clicked. And then, you reach out to him. WACA was one of the biggest kickball leagues in America, doing multiple millions of dollars. And, they kind of have gone on the decline lately, but one of the founders I realized had left. And so when I tell people to reach out to a business owner, you got to figure out, well, how can you make it worth their time? And a guy like that, I can't give him enough money to make it worth it. So what I usually do when I reach out to a business owner, I say, hey, is there a nonprofit that I can donate to? Or, that I can buy some, basically it's the same idea of like buy someone a cup of coffee. Well, they're virtual, so I can't buy them a cup of coffee. So I say, hey, can I donate to a local nonprofit in your name if you give me 15 minutes of your time to talk about your business?
Smart.
And so while he might think or she might think that, well, my time is worth more than, let's say, $50, he's going to say, well, that nonprofit needs that $50. So it's more likely he's going to say, okay, great. And once you get him talking about business, that 15 minutes turns into 15 minutes almost every time. So you steal what you can, and you just, be very appreciative. You always follow up 6 months later saying, hey, this is what we're doing now. Thanks so much for the advice. And what you feel is they usually circle back. So I feel like don't try to do it yourself. Find someone who's done it before you. There's tread marks on their back, and to just figure out what you can avoid from a pitfall standpoint. And just be aggressive, I'm not a patient person, so, I always I think it's a virtue, but it's not one that I like to follow.
That's awesome. And going all the way back to what you were saying about IVP, and as you just said, not being afraid to ask questions and you're obviously a very powerful networker, so just constantly networking, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and and just lead with value. I try to do that, when we can. There's a lot of events that we worked with that, we didn't ask for much for, saying, hey, do you need more volunteers? Do you want us to share like your event? Do you want us, or a nonprofit, things like that. I always feel like it comes around. It's a small town for as big as the county is, a small, area. So if you want to get into business, I feel like anybody should try, in theory, to be the mayor of your town. So it's more of a saying than it is don't actually try to be mayor, because I would never want that job. Gavin or whoever takes it next and keep it. But you should be enough connected where you can kind of feel like the mayor of the town, because it just, again, opens up doors. People think about things and they go, oh, do I know someone that does that? Oh yeah, so-and-so does. Or you can be the connector and say, hey, a lot of people just call me saying, do you know a person does this? I said, yep, here you go. And so it kind of builds on itself.
Yep. Yeah, that's a lot of what we try to be for business owners throughout the county. Whatever question they have,
make friends.
They can come to us.
Make friends with Steve. You know, like what we did the Military Bowl was awesome. You know, like got to hang out in that suite, and there's
and meet lots of.
It was like the croquet match, like where you go there and you never watch croquet. That was I think Duke was playing football against someone. Right. I don't know because I was so busy, like just networking and talking. Like it was a blast. So make friends with Stephen Grayson here. Is another piece of advice.
We like to hear it. So obviously, you said you don't like to sleep a lot, which is obviously good because you got tons of leagues. You've got what's a growing business to run. what are just a few of the things you like to do or places you like to go in your little bit of, non-intramural, non-business time?
Oh man, you're gonna get me in trouble because I like to go to a mall and I don't.
You can name drop as many as you want.
Yeah, right. I mean, when I'm downtown, I'm biased, but and not biased. I think the best crab cake downtown is Dock Street. So I spend a lot of time there getting food.
Yep.
I'll go hang out with Beansy, get an Irish shooter at McGarvey's.
Yep.
I love what the Foxes do just in general. So the new Parley Room, that new patio that overlooks State Circle, just does great cocktails. Andrew and John Miller are doing an awesome job there. I got to stay on the field. So when you play with these sports, and I mentioned I played rugby for 10 years. The body does not keep up like it used to. Mm-hmm. So I spend free time at Rehab to Perform and mobile stretch therapy with Stephanie Disc. So taking care of your body is also important. Yeah. And anytime I get in the water is awesome. The sailing school was new to me. I'd never been there until last season when we launched the sailing league. And now I'm always finding, hey, do you have a meeting? I'll just show up at your place.
Yeah. And they've been around 60 years.
I know, who knew?
Yeah,
and I was
crazy.
Down at Beme Beach, and I'll show up at a meeting 2 hours early by accident. Yeah. And just hang out and work. So I got their Wi-Fi. So anytime you're in the water is awesome. But and also I think we're blessed that the town does events where a drinking town with a sailing problem or vice versa.
Right. Yeah.
So anytime there's an excuse to have e-sport tug of war, whatever it may be, something like that, it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah. That's all good stuff. We're always saying when we're talking with guests that pretty much anything you can think of in Anne Arundel County, it has it within 30, 45 minutes.
Exactly.
Which is awesome, and I think a blessing that a lot of other areas don't have. So I guess just to close things up, if you could just tell everyone out there where to follow you guys, whether it's wanting to see what leagues you have, wanting to just do some of the social events, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, I mean, our website is peakesocial.com. Facebook, we're also Peake Social. Our Instagram is still Annapolis Social.
Okay.
I created the Peake Social account and then got locked out, and I've had 50 phone calls with Facebook saying I need you to unlock this, and I've gotten nowhere. And I say, I know it's not your fault, the person I talk to, but you're a $150 billion company. You guys think you would have this figured out by now. And they always say, well, that's a Facebook problem and we're Instagram, or vice versa. I said, you're the same company. You're all called Meta now. I mean, so if you can build another world, you can figure out someone's password.
Right.
I would spend more money with you. So, I just spend the money locally with advertising here instead. So.
Right. Yeah, it's obviously in my role. I know social media is an ever-evolving field. So on that subject, everyone out there, just a reminder that you can watch this episode and any of our past podcast episodes on YouTube and Facebook. And then you can actually also watch them on Spotify, as I keep reminding. And you can listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. And please also be able to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, for not just podcast news and promotion, but all sorts of grant and loan opportunity news and just all sorts of news on economic development throughout the county. And we'll see you next time.